Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my channel. Please don't forget to subscribe and let's reach 1000 subscribers so that I will post videos regularly. Also, use the super ninjutsu power to like this video. Finally, don't forget to write in the comments which anime you want me to cut and turn on the bleach bell to get notifications and be informed when a new video will be uploaded. Let's go! The second season of Ragnarok begins with Brunhilde informing God that the gods will use someone stronger for the next fight. Suddenly Heracles appears and states that the gods chose him and he is ready to fight. Both Valkyrie sisters are happy to see him and Brunhilde wishes him good luck. Next, Loki sneaks behind him and mentions his closeness with the Valkyries, whereas Heracles informs him that he is against the elimination of mankind. Well, if he wins, he will ask for mankind to be saved. Later, Brunhilde states that Jack the Ripper, a human she hates a lot, will fight Heracles. In the arena, Heracles is very angry that he fights him, and Arthur Conan Doyle, the famous novelist and creator of Sherlock Holmes, explains to humans that Jack killed at least 5 hoes in the slums of London, but nobody couldn't find him. At that moment, the fighters meet each other and Heracles offers him to surrender. In return, he will ask Zeus to save his soul. Jack refuses and throws out 2 large scissor blades and connect them into one big scissor, stating that this weapon is his villain. The gods watch all this and unexpectedly, Jack starts to run away. Heracles then finds him when he pours some tea. He sees a threat and then pulls it. Suddenly, numerous sharp blades start falling on Heracles, but he breaks them all with his muscles. He also informs Jack that blades made by humans cannot scratch the gods. Heracles reaches him and is going to attack, but Jack fires a zipline and is going to avoid a face-to-face battle again. Heracles then jumps and destroys his villain. Jack bounces back and throws knives at him and suddenly damages Heracles. Then Jack confesses that he lied about his villain. The real one is the satchel that produces weapons its own size. At this time, Brunhilde explains that malice helps humans to be better than gods, and Jack is the best choice against the righteous god Heracles. Then Heracles breaks all of Jack's knives and Jack immediately throws new ones at him, but the god starts blocking them. Some knives damage him, but Heracles moves straight. Finally, he reaches Jack and swings his club, but Jack instantly parries with his umbrella. All of a sudden, the tattoos of Heracles start to expand and the lion's head of his club awakens. He then uses the Nemean lion technique and breaks Jack's umbrella and knocks him into a building. Next, Jack gets up stating that Act 1 turned good. He then pulls out a large switchblade and is going to start Act 2. In the God's box, Ares tells Loki that in the past Heracles completed the 12 labors and acquired the 12 divine arts. Every time he uses those arts, his tattoos spread, causing him terrible pain. When they cover his body, he will die. In 2000 before Christ, bullies beat up young Castor and take his cuff, but suddenly Alcides, who later became known as Heracles, arrives and runs at them to protect Castor. Later, they both lose and lie on the ground, but Alcides doesn't give up and is going to return the cuff back. Late at night, those bullies come to them and offer to drink the blood of Zeus. If a true hero drinks the blood from Ambrosia, he will become immortal. However, if he is not a true hero, he will die instantly, as legend tells. All the time, the young boy wanted to become stronger. At that moment, the gods gathered at the Council of Valhalla and they decided to let mankind continue to live. However, other gods offered to punish humans. Next, Ares promised to do it personally in Thebes. Ares and his warriors descend from the skies and then Alcides challenges him. He attacks Ares, but the god instantly kicks him away. The boy doesn't give up and is going to protect humans. He then takes Ambrosia and drinks the blood of Zeus. Suddenly, he gets the most terrible pain. Ares goes to other people thinking that he had died, but unexpectedly, Alcides stops him. The warrior of Ares jumps at Alcides, but he immediately knocks this man out with his club. After a while, Alcides defeats all the warriors and only Ares is left. Ares and Alcides are going to punch each other, but suddenly Zeus stops them. He then informs Audacious that he will become the god and will lead mankind to the path of righteousness. For the next 4,000 years, the gods didn't interfere with the earth's affairs. Audacious took his place among the gods as a child of Zeus and became known as Heracles. At present, Jack starts to attack Heracles with all his weapons and Heracles continues blocking. Then the god tries to strike him, but Jack uses piano wires to dodge his attack. Next, Jack shoots knives at Heracles using those wires and Heracles gets a lot of damage. Unexpectedly, he uses the six-layered Stymphalian bird, transforming his club into a bird and creating a powerful wind that blows the knives back at Jack. Some knives hit Jack and others destroy all the wires. Jack's left eye is glowing red and he knows that Heracles truly have an unshakable will. Suddenly, Jack starts to sing. London Bridge is broken down. In the 19th century, young Jack is looking for food in the trash bin, but the owner comes and starts to beat him up. After that, he uses his right eye and sees the red aura of that man, which indicates his malice, rage, scorn, and contempt. By the way, all this happens in London. Then he promises not to steal anymore and the aura turns blue, the color of superiority. That man gives him some food and he comes to the brothel, where he lives with his mother. His mother Mary works as a night fairy and loves her son very much, whereas Jack feels her love and sees her golden color. While Mary works, Jack talks to Annie, another night fairy. Mary was pregnant 5 times and aborted them all, but suddenly she gave Jack birth and raised him personally. Annie thinks that a pity Jack is in such a place, but Jack feels great because the only source of pride and comfort is his mother's love. On another day, Jack comes and sees his mother crying, and he informs that Jack Smith, the person she loved a lot, has recently got married, whereas he had promised to marry Jack's mother. Late at night, Jack tries to help her, but she gets mad and suddenly tells him that he was just a tool to connect her to her love, and now there is no need to raise Jack. The young boy sees his color turning red and then he reaches her and starts to strangle Mary. Next, her color turns purple, the color of fear. Suddenly she escapes and then Jack stabs her in the neck and she dies. Later, he comes to his father Jack Smith and kills him either. In the arena, Jack tries to escape and climbs Big Ben, but Heracles destroys the building. Next, he prepares to use the seventh labor, Cretan Bull, but Jack throws the clock's-tail and slices off the left forearm of the god. At this time, Loki understands that Jack has already lied 2 times and the real villain is his gloves. Then the rest gets angry and Brunhilde confirms that she knew about his villain beforehand. Earlier, she came to Locke and asked to help Jack. Locke refused to help the murderer, but suddenly Jack appeared behind her and she again refused to help him. Unexpectedly, Jack started to choke the Valkyrie and finally forced her to become his villain, whereas Brunhilde didn't do anything and just was watching all the process. At present, Brunhilde explains that Locke is the 11th Valkyrie and has the power of Saber Rattler, which can turn anything into divine treasure, or simply into a weapon that can damage the gods. Mankind starts to think that Jack can win this fight, whereas the gods cheer on Heracles. Horace is also angry and is about to give up, but suddenly, Zeus punches him and adds that Heracles is the man who challenged the gods and he will never give up. Next, Jack sees his golden color and then applauds him and tips his head. Jack also reveals that he can see emotions with his right eye. Suddenly, Heracles finds out that Jack had lost because he gave into despair and gave himself over to pleasure. Then Heracles lists all the terrible character traits of people, but because of this, he loves all humans. Jack sees the color of love from Heracles, reminding him of his mother, and then Heracles promises to save him. He instantly throws his club and uses the 12th labor, Cerberus. Suddenly, the Hound of Hades appears and bites Heracles, giving him an incredible strength. In the God's box, Zeus states that the extra power will only end when it either absorbs his opponent or completely consumes Heracles. In the arena, Heracles immediately attacks Jack, but he easily dodges and throws everything at him. Hercules reaches him and attacks, but Jack uses a manhole to defend himself. Unexpectedly, the god punches through it and hits him. Jack tries to escape, but the god punches him and he falls on a metal fence. Then Jack uses his mantle and cuts the building behind him. The building falls on Hercules while Jack runs away. Later, Hercules emerges from the rubble and then Jack states he wants to paint him in the color he loves. They both start to hit each other and Jack gets serious damage from Hercules. Well, there is little time left for the god and he runs at Jack to kill him. Jack dodges all his attacks and suddenly he takes an iron rope and scratches him, but the god punches the mortal. All think he lost, and suddenly Jack gets up. Injured Jack comes to Hercules and tries to stab him, but the god dodges and instantly counterattacks. Hercules is going to kill him, but Jack transforms the blood on the gloves into a weapon and stabs him in the chest. Unexpectedly, Hercules hugs Jack rather than killing him, and then his soul shatters. Before disappearing, Hercules asks Brunhilde to do her best to save mankind. Next, Heimdall announces the winner of the forced battle and injured Jack goes back and wants to see Hercules one more time. Suddenly, all people of Thebes start to throw stones at him and they're very angry, but Jack just smiles and tips his head at the crowd. Later, Brunhilde comes to the room where she pays respect to Lubu and Adam. She also has another cup for Hercules and starts crying. At this time, Hertz mourns the death of Hercules, whereas Loki is annoyed that Jack not only fooled Hercules with his strategy, but all the gods. Suddenly, Zeus goes mad because of the draw between human and god fighters and then leaves angry as well as Loki. Next, we see Buddha reaching Loki and the god of mischief notes that something was bothering him since the first battle. He then states that in Buddha's spiritual realm, they have something similar to the power of Valkyries to transform into villain. Well, Buddha states that his questions took so long that he didn't even hear half of it. Suddenly, Loki accuses him of betrayal and is going to kill him. Unexpectedly, the 7 lucky gods appear and state that the traitors deserve judgment. One of the 7 Abyssos wants to attack Buddha, but he spies the lollipop stick out and pierces Abyssos' hand. All the gods there prepare to attack Buddha and he is ready for that. At that moment, Kojiro Sasaki appears and states he doesn't approve of ganging up on others. Next, Soji Akita and Isami Kondo also come there and the humans decide to help Buddha fighting the 7 lucky gods along with Loki. Soji wants to kill the gods whereas Loki is going to attack them, but Abyssos stops him saying that he must take revenge on them. He takes his gun and shoots at Buddha, but he easily dodges and Loki summons his chained blades and attacks them all. Buddha dodges again while Soji reaches Loki and wants to kill him, but suddenly Zeus and Odin stop their clash. The Raven state that has observed that gods are fighting among themselves. Abyssos doesn't want to come down and Odin releases his aura, causing the glass of the dome garden to break. Loki then instantly goes away as well as the 7 lucky gods. After that, humans go to watch the next fight where Zeus comes to Buddha ordering him to not cause any more problems, and the boss starts to laugh. Buddha then leaves, stating that the only one who can tell him what to do is he himself. Zeus also leaves and suddenly Odin using his aura rots away all the plants in the garden. Next, God and Brunhilde come to another human fighter, Raiden Tamimon, who was sleeping at that moment. Then Brunhilde yells for him to wake up. A bit later, Raiden gets up and instantly jumps at Brunhilde to watch Netflix and chill. But Brunhilde stops him and calls her sister Truth, the third of the 13 Valkyrie sisters. Well, she's bigger than an excited Raiden and then he jumps and hugs her. Unexpectedly, Truth starts to melt and Raiden orders her to become one with him. At this time, the arena has changed and become similar to a sumo arena. Next, Heimdall announces the beginning of the 5th battle. He introduces the greatest sumo wrestler, who was the emperor of the sumo ring for over 20 years. Then rival Rikishi, Raiden Tamimon from Japan. After that, Heimdall introduces the 5th god fighter, Shiva, noting that he builds worlds for sports and destroys them on a whim. The fight between Raiden and Shiva begins. Next, we find out that Shiva has 3 wives and 1 son, so they all support him. Shiva is going to attack Raiden but sees a frog with a basket of salt. Raiden then throws the salt and the crowd cheers. Now he's ready to fight and he instantly dropkicks Shiva in the face. Raiden is going to punch him again but Shiva blocks it and the human throws a hook causing the god to fall to his knees. Raiden then grabs his head and kicks him in the face but Shiva easily blocks and using his second pair of arms punches Raiden. The sumo wrestler gets angry as well as the god. In January 1767, a 3-year-old Terakichi cannot get up. One day his parents see how Terakichi stands on his knees but suddenly his arms, legs and ribs break. His muscles were too powerful and they smashed his bones. However, Terakichi didn't give up and developed new muscles named the 100 Seals that restrained his old muscles. At present, Raiden releases the 100 Seals in truth, helps him to control his muscles. This is her villain. Brunhilde explains that now Raiden can use his maximum to fight Shiva. In the arena, Raiden starts to beat him up and the Indian god falls down. At this time his coach, Kajinosuke Tanikaze, is very happy about that. Next, Raiden is going to finish him, but Shiva headbutts Raiden and starts to throw numerous punches. After that, the wrestler falls to his knees and suddenly, Raiden grabs Shiva's second left arm and breaks it. Raiden easily controls his muscles, whereas all Indian gods start to support Shiva, mentioning that his feet are imbued with the 1116 souls of them. Shiva gets angry and attacks Raiden, but he easily dodges, because Shiva lost control of his balance due to his broken arm. Raiden punches him, but Shiva instantly counterattacks. The two then grab each other's heads and start headbutting themselves. At that moment, Shiva fires up and remembers the time with Rudra. A long time ago, there were numerous gods in the Indian pantheon. They were always fighting each other and nobody was leading them. In Mount Kailash, there were two unknown gods, Shiva and Rudra. At that time, Rudra, the god of storms, trained a lot, whereas Shiva danced with animals. Later, two other gods came and asked for their help because Asura Butcher brothers attacked their village. Two friends came and started to fight them all. After a while, Rudra said that his dream is to stand at the pinnacle of the Indian pantheon. Shiva was not interested in this idea, but he joined Rudra. They were winning against all the great gods they faced, and one day they met Indra, the Hindu god of lightning. Rudra personally challenged him and got victory. The two eventually faced Brahma, the creator, and Vishnu, the preserver, and winning them they finally climbed up the pinnacle. Unexpectedly, Rudra challenged his best friend, Shiva. The only thing he wanted to know himself, who is stronger. They both started fighting and all the gods were hearing their punches. They were fighting a lot and then Shiva asked him to surrender, but Rudra didn't want to give up. Suddenly, Shiva was about to say he gives up, but Rudra did it before him. Shiva started to cry and Rudra gave all the names he obtained to him. At that moment, he became the leader of all the Indian gods. However, he lost his best friend Rudra. At present, Rudra comes to support Shiva. Next, Shiva starts to dance because this is the secret weapon that he used to unite the Indian pantheon. Raiden attacks him, but Shiva easily dodges and instantly counterattacks. This happens a lot of times, and then Hermes mentions that he is on fire because of the speed of his dance. At this time, Raiden focuses his muscles on his arms and blocks all his attacks. Suddenly, Shiva jumps and then hits Raiden with his legs, hearing the sumo's flash, but Raiden continues to stand. In the past, a 5-year-old Terakichi observes other kids practicing sumo and then Toraji, one of the strongest boys, invites him to fight. The battle begins and Terakichi immediately attacks him and wins the duel. Suddenly, the kid starts to think that he is a monster, and then he cries to his mother. However, she explains that he should praise the gods and wants him to find a way to help the weak. In 1783, an eruption of Mount Osama changed his life completely. The volcanic ash destroyed all crops, and in the next several years, many people died from starvation. After that, 17-year-old Terakichi leaves his homeland and decides to become a sumo wrestler to earn a lot of money and help his village. Then Yohachi Urokaze, a sumo trainer, orders Tokikaze to fight Terakichi because he refused to fight the others. Next, the battle begins and Darokichi instantly charges at Takikaze, but Takikaze slams him on the ground and then keeps knocking him down. After that fight, Darokichi keeps training and improving his fighting skills, and in 1790, he won his first official sumo fight as Raiden Tamimon. One day Raiden faced an opponent who feared him a lot, then Raiden remembered his past and surrendered, but he kept winning and sending money back to his hometown. At present, Raiden decides to fight with all of his might against Shiva. Suddenly, he strikes Shiva with the great force and Shiva stands up but only with one arm. Unexpectedly, Raiden suffers the recoil of his attack. He asks Through to migrate his muscles even faster. She agrees and then Shiva sees his old friend Rudra and other gods praying for him. Shiva sticks his fingers in his chest and starts stimulating his heart directly, forcing it to beat faster. When the time comes, Shiva must use the Tandava to destroy the world as legend tells. Suddenly, Shiva's body starts to burn and then he activates Tandava Karma. He turns red and also starts to burn up. Finally, they both are going to attack each other using their maximum powers. All Indian gods watch how Shiva attacks Raiden, but Shiva's punches burn his muscles. However, Hermes explains that if it continues too long, Shiva will end up burning himself up. In the arena, Raiden tries to throw Shiva, but Shiva manages to recover and immediately counterattacks him. All the sumo wrestlers starts to support him, and then Raiden manages to push Shiva away. On the other side, Rudra motivates Shiva and then both fighters continue attacking each other. Raiden is going to perform the Yatagarasu strike again, but Shiva hits Raiden's palm with his leg and splits it into two. Raiden smiles and thanks Shiva for the great fight. He also asks Through to escape from his body since it's time they say farewell, but Through doesn't want to leave him alone because she loves him. Finally, Shiva beheads Raiden with a kick and then his soul shatters along with Thru's one. After that fight, Hermes explains that if Raiden fought freely, he wouldn't have been a match for Shiva, and that's why Sumo helped him to keep Shiva on the ropes. At this time, Shiva leaves the arena and meets Rudra, Zeus and other gods. He then states that humans are quite awesome, whereas God remembers truth and starts to cry. Later, Brunhilde adds another shrine for Raiden next to the others, while Zeus finds Buddha and informs him about Shiva's victory. Zeus asks him to fight in the next battle and Buddha agrees. Suddenly, God finds and overhears the Lucky God's conversation, so she finds out that Ebisu is angry at Buddha and promises to crush him the next time they meet. And then other gods find her and start to question little Valkyrie. Girl gets scared and asks someone to help her, and then Jack the Ripper appears, citing Shakespeare's writing. Well, after a while, the sixth battle is about to begin, and Heimdall introduces the next god Fire Buddha. He comes to the center of the arena and announces he will be fighting for mankind. The gods start to get angry, but Buddha adds that if the gods aren't going to save mankind, then he will, promising to kill any god who stands in his way. Thank you for watching this video, I really appreciate it. Also watch Record of Ragnarok Season 1 in 24 minutes and Vinland Saga Season 1 in 58 minutes, because I will start Sagat Season 2 very soon. Goodbye.